Alright, so this one happened several years ago, and it is a multi-year long story, but I will try and keep it as succinct as possible. We installed cameras in the front of our home overlooking the driveway and our vehicles. Now, part of the camera angles did overlook our two neighbours, one over their side yard and one over their backyard. The cameras were battery operated and they had this function where you could grey out areas that you didn't want to film. And so when motion occurred in those areas, the cameras wouldn't activate to start recording. The neighbour's entire property and several of the bushes we greyed out, and we did this when installing them. So one of the neighbours was our friend, and they had no issues with this whatsoever, and we went over and we showed her the angles, and she just didn't care. She didn't even care about the greyed out areas. She was like, whatever. But we left them greyed out to preserve the battery life. Now, our other neighbour was Karen. Not her real name, but very, very fitting. Karen was on the HOA board, and as you might well imagine, we did not get along with Karen or the HOA board. We told Karen about the cameras and showed her the greyed out areas at the same time that we told our friendly neighbour about it. Now, this was a FYI conversation. We're not on friendly terms. It was not a "we are asking for your permission" conversation. She told us, "You gotta take the cameras down immediately or we would regret it." About a week after we hung the cameras up, we got a notice from the HOA that we were violating the bylaws. The bylaw in question, a nuisance to your neighbour's bylaw. There wasn't a specific bylaw preventing the placement of cameras. So this is all they could find to try and punish us. So we responded with a letter detailing how we're not violating any bylaws or laws in general and asked them to cease and desist. Oh well, we all know how these stories go, don't we, eh? They did not cease and they most definitely did not desist. Their first response, "The HOA reserves the right to enforce these bylaws. Try to stop us if you think you can." These types of responses were unfortunately quite common from this board. Well, we entered into this battle with one goal in mind: to cost them as much money and time as possible. The HOA hired a lawyer specifically to fight us. To my knowledge, this hasn't happened to any other residents. In the following 4 months, we ended up costing the HOA over $4,000 in lawyer fees fighting this battle. For reference, the entire HOA income was $25,000 a year. When it came time for our official HOA hearing over the matter, we had successfully postponed it thanks to an attorney and friend 3 separate times. There was over 100 back and forth emails with the HOA attorney and ourselves. So each one of those emails was a 15-minute expense for the HOA, and I was happy to follow up with another follow-up question, with another follow-up question, with another follow-up question, if it meant the HOA attorney was going to keep billing them. Did I say follow up enough times, Em? We didn't actually want to take this battle to court, so we ended up removing the cameras the day of the hearing to prevent being fined, even if the fine wouldn't hold up in court. The HOA decided in the hearing that we were guilty, surprise, surprise, of violating the bylaw. They couldn't fine us as the bylaws don't allow a fine until after the hearing has been held, and the cameras were already removed. In the end, the punishment was a sternly written piece of paper on the attorney's letterhead, delivered by certified mail, might I add, that stated we were not allowed to place cameras on our home that had the potential to invade the neighbor's privacy. Keep in mind the letter specifically stated the camera could not be placed on our home. We left the cameras off our home for about 4 months until the annual HOA meeting. You should have seen the look on the HOA board's faces when I asked them to explain the $4,000 line item for attorney's fees that simply stated title searches attorney fees. The board actually tried to hide the fact that they spent $4,000 trying to fight us over a couple of cameras by putting the fees in as title searches. Well, needless to say, that meeting did not go well for them. About half of them lost their positions on the board. The other half, including Karen, unfortunately, remained on the board. But about a week after the annual meeting, we installed new cameras facing the same direction as the prior cameras, only this time we installed them on posts in the ground and mounted the cameras on the post. The admonishment we received after the hearing specifically stated that we were not allowed to install cameras on our home, but said nothing about putting them on a post. Well, they did send a letter to try to tell us to remove the cameras, but a sternly worded response indicating that we were prepared to fight them actually worked this time round. I guess they didn't want to spend another $4,000 fighting us. We didn't receive any follow-up response, and the cameras on the post are still installed to this day, 2 years later. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I fucking hate HOAs. I would never, ever buy a house that was involved in a HOA. Just no. But if you want another HOA revenge story, you should check out this story right here, where someone else gets their own back on the HOA. And you know what? Maybe we'll do another one in the future. But head over there now, guys, and I will see you there.